He didn't introduce himself. He didn't set up his argument with a careful preamble. Ted Lieu walked to the microphone, held up a photograph, and let the silence do the work. The photo showed Prince Andrew in close physical contact with a woman. Her face was blurred, and that detail, that single redaction, was the entire case in one image. Because under the Federal Victims Trafficking Protection Act, faces are blurred to protect one specific category of person, not witnesses, not associates, victims. Lieu didn't need to say it. He just asked Bondi to confirm it. You redacted this face because you were following congressional law to protect a victim, correct? Yes. And just like that, the Department of Justice had confirmed on camera under oath that the woman in that photograph with Prince Andrew is legally recognized as a victim of sex trafficking. The follow-up question wrote itself. If that photograph is evidence of a crime, if the woman in it is a federally protected victim, why did your department close the investigation in July 2025 and declare there was nothing to pursue? Bondi's response was to ask whether Lieu had directed the same questions at Merrick Garland. Lieu said he agreed. He agreed that Garland dropped the ball, that Bill Barr dropped the ball, that Alex Acosta dropped the ball. A string of failures across administrations. And then he said the thing that nobody in that room could deflect. You are in charge now. You have the power, and you are protecting them. The July 2025 memo is the document at the center of this. It was released by the Department of Justice with minimal fanfare and maximum consequence. Its conclusion: investigators did not uncover evidence that could predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties. In plain language, no new cases, no new names, no further action. The memo closed the door on the entire network of individuals who participated in Epstein's operation without charging a single one of them. Lieu's point is the point that cannot be answered cleanly. A photograph exists in the department's own production showing a man in the company of a federally protected trafficking victim. That photograph is evidence. The department's own legal framework says the woman in it is a victim. And the department's own memo says there is nothing to investigate. Those two things cannot both be true. Either the memo is wrong or the redaction is wrong. The department cannot have it both ways. Prince Andrew has never faced criminal charges in the United States. He settled a civil lawsuit brought by Virginia Giuffre in 2022, paying a reported sum that has never been fully disclosed without admitting liability. He has stepped back from royal duties, but settlement is not accountability. A civil payment is not a criminal prosecution. And the question of why the Department of Justice, which has the photographs, the testimony, and the legal framework that designates his companion as a victim, has never pursued charges, that question has never been answered under oath. Until Lieu asked it. And Bondi's answer was to pivot to Merrick Garland. Now stay with me, because what happened next is the moment this hearing became something larger than a procedural argument about redactions. Lieu shifted from Prince Andrew to Donald Trump. He produced a video. He asked whether there were minors at the parties Trump attended with Epstein. Bondi's response was immediate and unequivocal. There is no evidence Donald Trump committed a crime. Lieu then placed a document on the screen. A witness statement from a limo driver who had called the FBI's National Threat Operations Center. According to the document, as Lieu read it into the record, the driver reported overhearing Trump speak to Epstein by phone, described a woman who later told him she had been assaulted by both men, and stated that the woman was subsequently found dead in circumstances that officers at the scene described as inconsistent with suicide. No one at the Department of Justice, according to Lieu, had ever interviewed this witness. Lieu looked at Bondi and said what he had been building toward since he took the microphone. I believe you just lied under oath. Bondi's response was 3 words at full volume. Don't you ever. Lieu did not stop. This is all on videotape. You said there is no evidence. I am showing you evidence. The chamber did not go quiet. It erupted. According to unverified accounts from sources familiar with the committee's document review, the limo driver's witness statement referenced by Lieu had been flagged internally at the FBI's Miami field office and assigned a case number before being marked inactive. These accounts have not been independently confirmed. What has been confirmed is that Lieu entered the document into the congressional record, that Bondi did not deny its existence, and that her response was to accuse him of committing a crime by suggesting she had committed perjury rather than to address the substance of the witness account. The names that surfaced beyond Andrew and Trump are worth addressing directly because the pattern they form is more significant than any individual mention. Elon Musk's name appeared in released files in connection with communications about Epstein's island. Musk has stated publicly that he declined every invitation and had minimal interaction. Bill Gates has been connected through allegations he has called completely false. These are not confirmations of wrongdoing. They are data points in a network map. And the map shows something that the July 2025 memo cannot explain away: a concentration of some of the most powerful and wealthy individuals in the world, documented in FBI files, in the orbit of a man who ran a sex trafficking operation for decades, while the Department of Justice repeatedly found insufficient grounds for further investigation. What happened to the victims in the document release is the thread that ties every other failure together. Millions of pages were released under congressional mandate. Inside those pages were names, real names. Women who had spent years protected by Jane Doe designations, whose anonymity was one of the only things the legal process had ever given them. Those names were released. Their faces, in some cases, were not redacted. They received phone calls. They were found. A prominent attorney representing several survivors described it as not a mistake. The department redacted the face of a victim standing next to Prince Andrew. It did not redact the names of survivors in a document dump of 3 million pages. That is not a volume problem. That is a priority problem. Lieu ended his time with the statement that will define this hearing in whatever history is eventually written about it. Over 1,000 victims. Not one man held accountable. Shame on you. And then, in the specific register of someone who has calculated the weight of what he is about to say, if you had any decency, you would resign after this hearing concludes. The room did not know what to do with that. Neither did Bondi. She asked to respond. The chairman said she could. She pivoted to crime statistics in California. Here is the question that Lieu forced into the permanent record and that the July 2025 memo cannot resolve. If the department's own redaction framework designates the woman in that Prince Andrew photograph as a federally protected trafficking victim, and if the Federal Victims Trafficking Protection Act holds that anyone who patronizes a trafficking operation is also guilty of a crime, then the photograph is not just evidence of a social relationship. It is evidence of a crime against a person the department has legally categorized as a victim. The memo says there is nothing to investigate. The photograph says otherwise. Someone made the decision to close that investigation. That person has a name and a title. They have not been asked about that decision under oath. They should be. The witnesses are still waiting. The photograph is in the record. The memo is in the record. Liu's accusation is in the record. And the man in that photograph has never been charged. Until someone explains how all of those things can be simultaneously true, this story has not ended. It has barely begun. Stay with us.